Today on All Dodgers, it's kind of a postseason preview. It's also kind of a 2024 regular season review. My buddy, Scott Geirman, of course, of Dodger Blue on the internet, dodgerblue.com, and right here on the YouTube machine. He joins the show as we do our regular season wrap for our monthly report card, the grade series we've been doing all year. Hopefully you guys have been following along. I'm happy we were able to do all of this this year and finish that up. So we finished that up here. We got our 2024 regular season takeaways, September takeaways, grades, our biggest postseason concerns. I'll spoil it for you. It's going to be pitching. Some October predictions and all that kind of stuff coming up here on another edition of the All Dodgers podcast. Before we get into it, I got to remind you, my name is Clint Pasillas. Find me as RealFRG on the Twitter, X on the Instagram. I'm a longtime baseball writer, sports editor. I've been talking about the Dodgers here on YouTube for a very, very long time. Some people like it. Hopefully you guys do. If you do too, and if you do, consider hitting that subscribe button, giving the video a like at any point. Goes a long way in helping us continue to build this channel. This channel started brand new, doing this all on my own. There's no outside voices. I answer to nobody outside of you guys. So this is a channel here literally for you people. So if you enjoy it, again, subscribe, like it, all that kind of stuff. One last thing before we get into the talk, before I welcome Scott to the show, I got to tell you that Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. You can also do maybe some postseason, MLB postseason stuff on there, just saying. But they want me to tell you about football, so I'm going to tell you football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads while games are happening. If you think you know your stuff, you can get in on their $200,000 mega contest right now. Pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of that $200K. The game is over if there's not a game happening, which is tough to find not a game happening. It's the busiest sport time of the year, but you can head on over to their online casino, get in on a game of blackjack, get in on a game of poker, unwind with over 150 slot games available right there at your fingertips. Head to the website today, get in on the action, bet online. The game starts here. So there he is, the man, the myth, the legend. They call him Gritty Scotty G here on the YouTube machine. And look, we're wrapping up a series. This is called Stick-to-itiveness, I believe. We started our grade series all the way back in April, I think, or at maybe the beginning of May, and here we made it, and the Dodgers made it, and they had the best record somehow through all of the nightmares of injuries. But right off the bat, we're a couple days before the start of the NLDS. How you feeling about this team, and how you feeling about the season that just passed?
Honestly, the things that we keep. Well, first off, it's good to have you. Good to be in here, man. It's good to see you again. I would say that things like we've talked about in Dodger Blue a bunch in our streams is that it's been a roller coaster, more in a lot of recent years, just for the fact that the injuries that happened and the amount of time that Mookie Betts was out, Freddie Freeman was out for a period of time, the dip in production from the bench, which made me more uncomfortable than I would think any position group has in recent years, just because of all the pillars that Andrew Freeman likes to have, Dave Roberts teams. They like to have these Swiss Army knife guys. And for a bit, they didn't have them. They didn't have any consistent production from those spots there. And although the Dodgers were never down in the division, it felt that at any moment, if production slipped from Ohtani, if it slipped from Freddie, or the top of the order couldn't carry the load anymore, things could go south real quick. Yeah. And that's all on top. And that's all on top of the starting pitching and all the big injuries that have happened there. But now we're at a point. Dodgers win the division 5 games. They take care of business in 2 series at the end of each point here against the Diamondbacks at the end, I believe, end of August. Take 3 of 4 there. In a big series against the Padres, 2 of 3. Changes the entire landscape and the entire outlook, I would say. So from where I stand, Clint, I'm in a much better headspace than I was, heading into the postseason of 2023,
Yeah, no, I feel that one for sure. I've had it the last couple of streams where I don't know if I'm trying to convince myself into feeling good heading into this postseason, or if this team has done enough to actually kind of quell or quiet those concerns that we should have blaring and glaring concerns with this team, especially in the starting pitching side of things. But somebody we were talking in my channel's Discord earlier, and somebody put together or they posted the lineup, the game one lineup in the NLDS last year, and I'm just looking side by side, and I'm like, there is a good reason to have that good feeling, because just about everywhere on the lineup, I mean, in right field you're better off than you were last year, because last year it was Jason Hayward. This year you got Mookie Betts, and if he was starting at second last year, you got Gavin Lux. In center field, I'm going to take Tommy Edman over the inconsistency of James Outman, and Teoscar Hernandez over an injured David Peralta. We should feel good, and you should also feel good, like you said. They took care of business when they needed it, when I think we all needed it as well, against the Padres, against the Diamondbacks. Go 98-64. Do not win 100 games, but I don't care if they don't win 100 games. You're the best team in baseball. And, to your point, I'm calling this, if we're kind of, making this our season takeaways here, because in my brain, I like to have a title and a segment and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an impressive case of surviving what this team did, considering, and I was looking briefly just before we popped on here, I think it's just Danny Hudson and Alex Vesey are the only two pitchers that didn't hit the IL. Somebody fact check me on that, but I think that's accurate. And as you said, no Mookie for a stretch, no Muncy for a stretch. Right now, you kind of got the injury with Freddie. Will Smith disappeared for a while, but on the offensive side, people just kind of plugged in, did some good things. And, you talked about the bench. I feel pretty good about the bench, because you get guys like CT3 turning it on late. Kike Hernandez, the glasses are real.
He's been terrific, man.
He's been great.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously you want Freddie Freeman in there, but Kike has been okay at first base, and it's not a problem if you're having him at second base, if you need to end up playing him at third. I know we talked a lot about the bench throughout doing this series, each month, and that was a massive concern for you, and I imagine you got to be feeling a lot better about it overall.
Yeah, the influx of Tommy Edman and the stabilizing force there, and providing them with an everyday center fielder for that immediately kicks down, puts these guys in a spot where they're not playing every day. They're not getting exposed. They're getting into spots where, Clint, it's having Dave Roberts maneuver these guys in a way where, hey, they are platoon guys. They are in specialized roles where they're coming into spots where they can mentally gear it up. I know people say, it's tough to get some of these players in a rhythm when they're getting sporadic at bats. But Kike Hernandez has made a career off of big pinch hit stuff, off of specialized roles, big spots where he has that mentality going in. I would say that with him now, Chris Taylor, for whatever they're going to get from him, Andy Pages has turned it on where now he's not diving so much. Like, he's staying in. Like, he looks confident at the dish.
Yeah.
Like that bomb he hit to really, right at the end of the year there, I believe, against the Padres, it's confidence. And it's finding a role for each of these guys and not having to have their bench guys as their starters, and finding some depth there. And I hope that, I know it's, Kike Hernandez has been playing great, but we'll see what Freddie Freeman's, where he's going to be at. I believe whatever injury he has, if there is even a window for him to say, hey, you can be on the field, you can play. It's just a matter of pain tolerance and how you feel. He will be out there. He's Freddie Freeman's that type of guy. Like, at this stage, like, you're going to have to rip him off the field for him not to be starting at first base come NLDS time. And to what you said about the bullpen, outside of, like you said, Alex Vesey, Daniel Hudson, he had that little bit of time where they gave him a reset there.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's been, what have we talked about? The consistency there. We know the age. They're going to have to find the innings and really spread those out. But the production has consistently been there. Mark Pryor, Connor McGinnis, like all these guys, they found a way to really have this philosophy that has worked for them year after year. And I think this time right now, with how Blake Trinan looked, with Michael Kopech, Evan Phillips, they've got him back on track. There is so much to like, and it just comes down to, how does the starting rotation look this year in terms of looking back last year? And I think that's, for me, like, the offense can look great this year, last year. It's just a matter of those three names that they're penciling in. Last year it was Clayton Kershaw, who looked broken down. They had to have him out there. Bobby Miller, we had never seen him in a postseason game. And then Lance Lynn, where it should have been Ryan Pepio. Now we're going to get Jack Flaherty, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and hopefully Walker Buehler rises to the occasion, just like he did against the Padres, man. So that's like, if I can ask you right here, does all of that make you feel better or worse than last year?
Oh, I feel infinitely better. I know we both face these questions a lot when we're doing these shows live online. It's about how do you feel about, would you rather not, play the Padres in a DS? Would you rather not, who would you rather play? I kind of feel strongly enough. I have enough confidence in this team, in this unit, in these 25 dudes that they can go out there and we're recording this after, the Padres looked very, very good against the Braves.
Yep.
Listen, thanks for playing. You don't have enough pitching to survive against the Padres, and they're also just going to be burnt out in general. 2 games and then immediately into this 3-game gauntlet. But I'm not worried about the Padres because I feel confident in the Dodgers, and I think that I haven't felt that the last couple of years. I think now. I don't know if this is me trying to fool myself. I don't know if this is fool's gold. I think
lay it out
even,
there.
Even
lay it out there.
hearing what you're saying, man, like you kind of share a lot of that similar confidence. I think this isn't what we're seeing. It isn't a farce. This isn't us lying to ourselves that this team can be good, that this team can compete against the Yankees in a World Series, against that Cleveland bullpen if they need to, against these Padres who, when they get off to a hot start, they could really ride that momentum. No, these are the Dodgers. They are well built. They got Shohei Ohtani at the top of the lineup, and they actually have, like you said, at least 2 grown-up human adult pitchers at the top of the rotation, something they didn't have last year. And maybe you do see that glimmer of Walker Buehler past continue to shine through in the biggest moment. I don't care what you did all season long, Walker. Now's your time to step up. So there's a lot of reason to feel very confident about this team. Sure. Hell, over the past 3, 4, maybe even 10 teams, you never know, because at the back end of a ball game, I feel better about Kopech right now than I would have felt about Kenley Jansen a few years ago. Things like that. We won't know until we see the next month. But maybe do we call this kind of an Andrew Friedman masterclass kind of year, with the caveat that he spent a lot of money to get there?
Yeah, I mean, it's, to get big player, to get big names, you got to pay big money. But looking at as far as retooling at the deadline, having the patience and not getting so outside of the box. I gave AJ Preller and the Padres a lot of credit right at the trade deadline. Like at the moves that they made, I said, people will look at those for what they gave up and say it's crazy. But they brought in, I would say, 3 quality relievers in there. To a bullpen that already had, Jeremy Estrada and Suarez right at the back end. I know he's had issues lately, but in game 1 there, he blew the Braves down. So for all it is, like he's had stretches where he's looked flat out dominant. So they've got a stable out there. But let's break it down, buddy. Like the series that the Padres just had, I know people can say, oh, it's regular season ball, it doesn't matter as much. The Padres rise to that. They understood the implications. The Dodgers understood the implications. But for the starters that the Dodgers trotted out, it's the same thing that happened in the Diamondback series. They had their 1As out there, those top 3, top 4 guys that you would see in a postseason series. The Dodgers just saw Michael King, Dylan Cease, and Joe Musgrove in that 3-game set there. Michael King did Michael King things and shoved again because he's just an absolute talent. Like, all credit to him. The dude can spin it
this year, yeah.
Unbelievable, dude. Unbelievable. So the takeaway from that Soto trade, like, I know they came away with that saying, we've got an ace here when we've got you, Darvish, and we don't know what Dylan Cease, that future is going to be there. So you've got a guy in Michael King, right at your front end. Credit to them. But they I'm not going to say they took care of Dylan Cease, but they showed that they can hit against Dylan Cease and against, Joe Musgrove. He did his thing for 6 1/3, but they ended up getting to him right at the back end there. But what the pitching for the Dodgers did is prevent runs. They did an incredible job. They didn't let themselves get beat by any one person. It was like Fernando Tatis had an absolute pump, and then they took care of Luis Arraez. They took care of Manny Machado. Jackson Merrill absolutely pummels the ball anytime he's up, so you've got to try to limit him there. But if you look at it, it was like random guys. Jake Cronenworth. Profar didn't do much. So looking at that and how they match up and knowing that the only starter, Jack Flaherty went against them, but he was able to limit damage. And outside of that, Walker Buehler did well. They didn't see Yoshinobu Yamamoto, which I love the fact that he didn't face the Padres in that set. And I think it's important because tendency-wise and stuff like that. I think that for where the Dodgers are, if they kind of weather the storm of the early few innings and don't allow the Padres to get ahead, something's going to break. some Dodger's going to find a way, because when we get into it, we're going to break down position group stuff here and going in hot into the postseason. That last month where everybody begs, just don't go on a cold spell. You saw everybody that needed to be hot going in, that you saw role players needing to be hot going in. All of them had stretches where you're like, this is damn dominant stuff. Like, this is where you look locked in, brother. So that's why I'm infinitely more confident this time than last.
You just got to keep the line moving. I think that's I hope that is an adage. I hope that's a mantra that this offense does have, because like you said too, all the starting pitcher needs to do, you don't need dominant stuff. You don't need ace level stuff. You don't need Roy Halladay, no hitters in the postseason or whatever. You just need to keep the game within reach for the first 4 or 5 or 6 innings, and then let these bats either get to the bullpen or figure out the starter. And that's kind of been, if we're looking at kind of September takeaways for me, I love the late compete from this team, to borrow from Dave Roberts.
Baby.
The compete has been there, and they've never felt out of a game, up to and including, who were they playing? It's Colorado Rockies at home. I was at the game where, they're down 1 in the 9th. Shohei Ohtani ties it up, and Mookie Betts sent us home Sunday afternoon to Dodger Stadium.
Were you left field pavilion that game?
Yes, I was.
There you go.
Yes, sir. You could see me pointing just barely. I know where I'm at in the broadcast, but I said, send us home, Mookie, send us home. Anyways, that much aside. But yeah, I think that's the point here where if anybody watching this does have concern for this team, I mean, you got a couple of ball knowers here. You got a couple people that have suffered through the last few years of this team where, I keep going back to like that 22 team, how good that roster was. But we felt, even winning 100 whatever games, 107 games, 106, it felt like a flawed team. 111 games, my bad. It felt like a flawed team. This one, it has character. It has kind of the vibes, the aura. And I think this is, I'm like hammering in on that aura. This is the postseason of aura. And I love the fact that this team is staying together. According to the reports, they're staying together, hanging out at Dodger Stadium, watching these wild card games. Not only kind of doing their scouting, which they need to do to learn tendencies and all that kind of stuff, but watching how the Padres players, how the fans are getting into it. Hopefully the stadium at Dodger Stadium, I would say we notoriously are kind of slow starters as fans sometimes at Dodger Stadium. If we can get that crowd into it early, take the Padres out of it, keep them out of it. Again, you got a lot of good pieces for this Dodgers roster as I kind of bounce around here with this, but
that's okay.
I'm good. I feel good about it.
I can piggyback right off the fan thing. They gave the Dodgers the late slate in game 1 on Saturday. So I believe it's a 5:30 start, LA time. So
love that it's Saturday, by the way. Love
Saturday.
Love that.
Sorry.
I love that. I love that it's Saturday, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. And allowing people to get to the ballpark. I know it's the wild card round, but if you saw games like it's in San Diego's packed for sure. I know that. I knew for a fact that was going to be packed. But you look at like the Houston, like Minute Maid was not full. Like you could tell the ESPN mics were doing all the heavy lifting in that game. Like it was, I know Dodger fans are going to rise to it. They understand this. Like this season had a different feel. 2022, they led I believe they won the division by 22 games. Last year it was 16 games. And you're bounced in both the NLDS and the NLDS round back to back. And I know that stings and that sucks. And on our shows recently, I've been saying, I believe this team's talented enough to go all the way. And that's not a ball knower thing to say. That's just looking at talent wise. Yeah. But it's the fact that they've dropped the division series to division opponents back to back times, and now you've got to face the demon once again in the 3rd year in a row here. You had to play the Giants in 2021, and then you had to go San Diego, where you get beat against San Francisco, San Diego, and now you're going against Arizona last year. And then you got ran out. Yeah. This time around, it's going to be in, that another 5-game set here where I believe a lot of fans understand what's at stake here. There's a lot going on. It's Shohei Ohtani's first postseason ever. Historic stuff. I believe people are much more engaged. They see that you've got Yamamoto. I believe there's enough hype. I think there's a different feel. Just because of the pressure around the team lately, the division, running away with it, 5 games, I would say 5 games is a decent decent chunk coming from where if you get swept against San Diego, it's their division. It's then in the future's in their hands. They run away with 5-game lead. That's running away from me. So, yeah, I believe the Dodger fans understand the assignment. I believe it's going to be different than in years past. They've just got to avoid that early letdown.
Yep.
Because you saw the Padres, they got an early blast from Fernando Tatis there. And then from then on, they didn't score anything until late innings off Luke Jackson of the Braves. So I think there's enough. They've got enough familiarity here against the Padres. And I know the season series went San Diego, but if recency bias shows there's that familiarity there. I know you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you see these bullpen guys enough, and I know Schilt likes to lean on them a lot. You saw the Dodgers get to Tanner Scott. You saw them get to some of their big arms. And outside of a triple play, Suarez would have been another victim of the bullpen. So a lot of stuff swung Dodgers, and we could have been looking at a sweep with Los Angeles at the back end of the year. And that stuff matters. I think that psyche matters for these guys here, knowing they're two heavyweights for sure.
Yeah, seeing the boys take 2 of 3, knowing that a lot of the Padres' heavy lifting was done when, in the roster wasn't at its best, wasn't at its healthiest. So let the Padres feel good about that. I wiped the slate clean because we know how these short postseasons go, these short series go. We'll get into our bigger concerns in just a little bit. I don't know if you want to fire off grades for the sake of just wrapping up the season series, because I got some numbers, I got some ideas in there.
We usually always wait till the end, so let's do it. Let's get it going.
I want to do that, and then we put the 2024 regular season to bed, and we look ahead to this. What is most likely, it's about 98% chance going to be another matchup with the San Diego Padres. But if we're leading off on the rotation here, I'll go ahead and lead us off on this one. I got a B for the Dodgers rotation in the month of September, just because they did piece some things together. You got Yoshinobu Yamamoto back. You do lose Glasnow, but seeing the kind of, I don't want to call it an emergence of Walker Buehler, but seeing something there, maybe more of an emergence for Landon Knack, where you don't feel terrible about him, starting a Game 4. So is it the best rotation we've seen in our lifetime in the postseason? No. Is it 1,000 times better than last year? Hell yeah. So hopefully, enough to ride through this month of October, and we can give them an A and a beer shower and all that kind of stuff. But it's a solid B for me in the starting rotation. What do you got?
I would say so too, and I'll say B just with the caveat at the back end of the year of that start for Walker Buehler. You could kind of see that it was that burst of emotion. The exact inning is escaping me at the moment, but it was that burst of emotion there. Kind of felt like a culmination in a realization that I don't need to be striking out like he did in his previous start against Colorado at home. He struck out 9, but he allowed 4 earned runs and 5 1/3, right? And Walker Buehler, what he was able to do against the Padres, he was able to limit the big damage. He was able to pitch to contact in a way that, I know there's some hard contact there, but even with runners on base, he wasn't deviating away from the plan. He was using his 4-seam fastball, I would say, as more of a setup pitch instead of an out pitch.
Yeah.
And for Walker Buehler, if any, I give our fans a lot of credit all the time. I don't speak to them like they're stupid, and nobody should, because we've seen this guy pitch in 2018, big games, 2021, when Max Scherzer decided to make a business decision to not pitch against the Braves. And we've seen gutsy Walker Buehler go out here and continue to try to tinker and work and find a mix that works for him. And I'm on the train that Walker Buehler needs to become a sinker cutter guy. And I think that, Lance, forgot we had him, Lance Resdato. I'm going to ruin his name, and I appreciate you, Lance, always. But he co-signed that about,
I know you're talking
he's a big prospect guy, and said that, that's where Walker Buehler should trend. And I think that what we saw against the Padres was more of him opening up his arsenal and understanding that the 4-seam fastball is a weapon, it's a tool, but it shouldn't be his number one go-to pitch.
Yeah.
He can pump cutters like the best of them. And I think for what the Padres do, they're a free-swinging, attacking team that's at times, yes, absolutely, they're going to be patient. They've got veteran hitters. But that start against the Padres showed me that he's willing to let his defense help. He's willing to say, I'm going to pitch to contact here. I'm going to break some barrels, and I'm going to, break some handles off some bats, and I'm going to let the defense play. And you got to see multiple times throughout that game where he was able to do that. He was able to pitch effectively, and he was able to find comfort knowing that I don't need to overpower everybody every time. With Landon Knack, I kind of hinge on the fact that I like that he just pumps the zone, attacks the zone.
Yeah.
He did
He's
fine.
relentless, by the way. Relentless is that kid.
Yeah, he said, his big thing is he pitches angry, and I like that, but he's got to hone that in. He's had moments, but you look against teams like Atlanta, like he gave up 5 earned against Atlanta in 2 innings, had a terrible thing. He couldn't grip anything. From start to finish, you could see even every Dodgers pitcher in Atlanta didn't look comfortable. I know you noticed that. It's the first thing I think of, even Yamamoto. But against the Padres, he had a little bit more trouble because he's got to find that changeup feel versus lefties. He's got to work away. But for the bulk of it, I'm more concerned about him facing guys like Jackson Merrill and Manny Machado if he decides to hang some sliders away. So that's my only pause with them. But the month of September provides a B+. Or I'm going to say B+, just because it gave me more hope that Walker Buehler found a little something, and he didn't open up the door all the way. And I think that when we get to a game 3, if we're in a do or die, if we're getting to a do or die, we'll see what he's made of, right?
Yeah.
But if we're talking about, series is 1-1 and we've got Walker Buehler on the mound, if he's in a spot to put it away, I don't know how comfortable I feel of him in a do or die, because then I think he might want to be perfect. If we're in a 2-0 to put it away, 1-1 to keep it going, I believe Walker Buehler is going to be there for it. So it gave me enough. I've got no issues with Flaherty, Yamamoto. They're pros. They know. I believe they're going to rise to it. But I find a lot of comfort in seeing that Walker Buehler found a little bit more. Yeah. And that gave us some vintage 21.
Like you're saying too, being creative. He has to be a little bit more creative.
I like that you said that. He's being creative out there.
The crafty veteran now, Walker Butane Buehler on Knack.
Feel old with that too? I felt old when you said that.
On Knack for a second too. If we're staring down, like you're saying, a do or die, I do wonder if this team will do what they do quite often and go to a short rest, like Jack Flaherty or something like that. Or if they're trying to seal the deal in a series, if they go to a Jack Flaherty, they do have that creativity as well, or that optionality. And this is why I do start, as I kind of move ahead a little bit there, I do start Jack Flaherty game 1. I think they already said today, Dave said, confirmed Jack Flaherty gets game 1. Not at all a shock or surprise there, but he could start both of those games if needed. If it's game 4, it would be in San Diego, assuming San Diego, or he could, seal it if it goes to a game 5 in LA. But I will say we need to see a little bit more out of Jack Flaherty. Not the prettiest, not the most even month of September, but to overall be, like I said. Bullpen, let's talk bullpen for a second. I was thinking about this earlier this afternoon, thinking on this grade, and I wanted to go higher, but looking at the numbers, I mean, the advanced stuff, like FIP wasn't very friendly to them. It's mid 4s, 3.5 ERA. They had to cover the second most innings, so that kind of is telling in the fact they did have to cover a lot of innings, especially early on in the month of September. But I think with enough days off in these series, in these postseason series, we've seen this bullpen unit thrive and excel in those moments where they have a little bit of rest, or more so when they're not being overworked and overused. I think we'll see the best version of this bullpen. That said, September, I gave him a B+. It's nothing to be mad about. It kept getting better and better throughout the season, and hopefully it becomes an A for me in October, because that's something that these boys desperately need. But fire off a bullpen grade for me, my guy.
Yeah, I'll say B, and I think that just comes from where the usage with Evan Phillips and his ability to limit some damage here in these snowball innings. But if you look at the heavy hitters out there, Vesia, Kopech, I hope Edgardo Henriquez is a part of that. Blake Trinan continues to be a weapon. He went 11 innings in September, shutty, 13 Ks. How many walks are we talking here? I don't think 1 walk. So you talk about the heavy hitters here. Anthony Band, I'm glad he's back. I just think that for the roles that some of these guys are going to be in, we have to start looking at just, I would say, the top slab. And then it's when it gets interesting. It's about, are we going to, Ben Kasperius has a case to be on there, because Benny Caps, I've been talking about him for a bit, that I've really hoped, because he was a Stuff Plus darling in AAA, and he's come up and he's done the exact same thing. And a lot of people are like, who the hell is this guy? He's been doing this in AAA. It's just a matter of putting it together. So he can give you some length. He can give you a couple innings, go full high octane. And I think that he's just like Edgardo, man. Like, are you going to keep some of these veterans? Are you going to keep Joe Kelly, Daniel Hudson? Are you going to keep, put him on the postseason roster? These are a lot of questions. And this is where, with roster maneuvering and with how that we know the organization does things, are they going to leave Daniel Hudson off the roster? Are they going to leave Joe Kelly off the roster? I don't think so.
No.
I would like the upside, 100%, because Edgardo Enriquez he's got his walk issues, but he's running K percent, I think like 35% since he's been up. I just had it pulled up because he's just so damn interesting to look at.
Yeah.
Ben Kasparius, air it out. Joe Kelly, we know how volatile he is, and Dave Roberts even said it. He's got it. When he's great, he's borderline untouchable. But when he's bad, he's not finding the strike zone. Daniel Hudson, even when he had these breaks, man, even when he's had, he can't find a way to limit the home run ball. And that you just can't, that cannot be a case. That cannot happen. So there's going to be those question marks. And it's not just a small deal. I don't want to hear anybody telling me that, oh, put him on there. It's just one guy. You will need everyone. Absolutely everybody, because there's going to be perhaps an opener situation, or say Landon Knack gets into some trouble, Walker Buehler gets into some trouble, and you're going to need an arm that can come in and fill up the zone with stuff that can actually get swing and miss. Does Daniel Hudson have that right now? Does the Joe Kelly have enough to find the strike zone? It's those questions that matter. And my only concern when it comes to the bullpen going into October, it's not about the heavy hitters, the Blake Trinans, the Kopechs, the Vesia. I believe they'll perform. But then it's going to get to the nitty gritty where those length guys will matter. They'll have to come in. Somebody will need to give some innings that are scoreless innings or one-run innings.
Or those are going to be the guys that need to come in and clean up a mess as well. And if I'm seeing Joe Kelly enter a game with runners on base, I'm going to the fridge and I'm going straight to the bar actually at the house, and I'm just going to start cranking some whiskey because that's just not a pretty sight, and I want to forget seeing Joe Kelly in those situations. It's worth noting, you do have different series. There will be different matchups. Whoever's going to be on that NLDS roster, we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but they might not necessarily be the right fit for the NLCS roster. And maybe that's something, we saw it work in 20 with the Dodgers. They leave Dylan Floro off either the wild card or the DS roster, and he comes up with one of the biggest outs in the World Series down the road. So it's not about what you do for me now. It's also about what you can do for us down the road. So if you're able to sell that to Joe Kelly, who has faced the Padres a lot over his career, has faced these Padres a lot over the his time back here in LA. Maybe there is that case. Maybe there is that argument where you tell Joe, hey, I'm sorry, we need to go to get us a different arm, a different look, and that's where you can get a Henriquez on that roster. You have your baby Bazooka up there, and maybe he could follow in Daddy Bazooka's footsteps and make Manny Machado cry a little bit like that. But
you bring up great points. You bring up great points. It's, familiarity. If you're not performing well and you just have a little bit of run again, just recently in Joe Kelly, I know his stuff looked, he's looked solid, but it's about familiarity.
Yeah.
And if I'm going with a guy who's got stuff, who the Padres haven't seen, I've seen enough from Enriquez. He's not afraid.
It's only 3 games, but he's got junk, man. He's got some junk, and we know it can touch 104. We saw that in the minor leagues. He's something special. Kasparius, maybe he's somebody who plays a role for this team in an LCS where you do need a little bit of length. It is upwards of a 7-game series, so you got some arms. The fact that there are these questions, or more so the conversations that this team is going to have, this is where you already immediately feel better than you did last year, or even in 22. If I remember correctly, the bullpen was pretty decent in 22, but ended up being kind of a big problem there with Alex Vesia and Jake Cronenworth. But we don't need to remember that. We don't need to think about that.
Rent free right here. What was it? We wanted him to go slider away, and he just refused. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on to, I guess, slightly more positive things, continuing grades. Go ahead and lead us off on Infield. How do you feel about this Infield? It's almost like a pile of the September grade, but at the same time, the season grade. But let's stay September and expand on season as you feel fit.
I'm gonna give him an A. I gotta give him an A. I'm going to. They offensively, they look, defensively is a different conversation. I'm not doing that. I can't. I think it lost them some games, sure, or it put them into some tough spots, which bled into the pitching. But for offensive production here and how they worked on one another, Max Muncy, I'm going to say Rojas has been great. Freddie Freeman had looked much better. At times, like the farther he gets away, it's funny to say that because my talking point was like, yeah, the farther he gets away from the finger, the better it'll be. But now he's dealing with a leg injury, and we'll see. Yeah. So, Gavin Lux had worked through some struggles, but he's looking like he's a league average guy. Yeah. He's going to be a league average guy.
Last week he looked really good as well.
Yes, last week he was finding some. He looked comfortable. He was finding the barrel, or he's finding the bat. I'm not as many barrels we're going to find. He was putting bat on ball, which for all you can ask for is someone that if you're slumping, just find a way to not be giving away at bats. If you're getting, you're striking out a lot, make sure you're at least walking a lot. Okay, he did a good job at that, walking or striking out at about a little bit above a 25% clip, walking at about a 17% clip. So it's okay. Finished the month with a 97 WRC plus here. So he, the infield did enough to earn an A grade from me and to give me enough confidence because guys like Kike Hernandez, it's the role players. We know what we're going to get out of there. And we'll see where we're at with Rojas because of his availability here. And I know that they said he's going to try to power through this injury following this, the groin stuff
that scares
with
me.
This injection. Yeah. And we might be seeing a lot more of Andy Pages in center field and Tommy Edman at shortstop. But Tommy Edman, the beautiful thing about it, that's the Swiss Army knife where you're going to get fantastic production defensively at short. Everybody's harping on Tommy Edman from hitting from the left-hand side. And he's much better from the right-hand side. Yeah. I hear it. And I gotcha. And I said he's one of those steals of the deadline, and we're going to be talking about it in the history books just because that's my narrative. But he provides a stabilizing force on the infield. Again, you've got Gavin Lux at second base, Kike Hernandez slotting in there. If they put Chris Taylor, cool. I got to give him an A because I don't have questions about it. Max Muncy has continued to look, awesome. 138 WRC plus at the end of the month here. He's doing Max Muncy things. He's walking and striking out at like the exact same clip, almost like 20% each. Yeah. I've got nothing else to say about him because stabilizing force wise, October presence, brother, they're going in all looking like they've got some uptick. Something good is happening for each of these guys, and you look to the outfield, and it's the same exact thing. Yeah. Same thing.
On infield for me, you mentioned guys like Taylor, you mentioned guys like Kike Hernandez. That honestly brings the overall curve up for me because I did have not so much question marks because there are no question marks on the infield, but I thought sometimes it's a long season. You get a little, burnout. You get a little draggy. The groin injury now, you wonder how the hell that's going to affect Miguel Rojas. And I don't know how good I feel about a reduced 36-year-old playing shortstop in a pennant race for this team. Tommy Edman maybe started getting a little bit more exposed on some of those tougher plays that you need to kind of charge in on, started losing a few throws to his right. I'm sure they're going to deal plenty with that over this, this 5-day period where they have to wait before playing baseball again. But overall, I've got, I'm going to go with B+. I'm actually going to change it here on the fly. I initially had B- in my head, but the fact that Kike can back up anywhere, the fact that if there is a Miggy Rowe injury, it makes that outfield better, in my opinion, because I love what Pages is doing with the bat right now. It's a B+. It's perfectly fine. There's nothing you could do necessarily to improve it, and there's not much you can do to make it worse unless, I guess there's a lot you can do to make it worse if Miggy Rowe gets hurt or if that ankle issue proves to be something more dramatic or more costly for Freddie Freeman, which come on, he doesn't need a whole bunch of range. He's not the most fleet of foot boy anymore. So as long as he could just keep some stability there and get some digs and throw out some singles, Freddie's going to be fine. That's where I'm at there. Infield B-, kept on just. B+. I just kept on getting better as the season wore on. Outfield, we'll keep this one also. I'll try to keep this one tighter, but I got to go A on the outfield, and I'll go back to what I said earlier about, this is kind of cheating, but when you're looking at last year, it was Peralta, and now it's Teoscar Hernandez. You're looking at whatever version of James Outman you were getting last year, and now it's Tommy Edman or Andy Pages, and then Mookie Betts back in right field, where maybe he belongs. We don't know if he belongs there in the long run. He's got a lot of hardware that says he belongs in right field. That over Jason Hayward, I'm sorry, that's just an A. That's got to be an A. And then Kike Hernandez, he can go out there. CT3 has been really, really good when healthy here in the second half. It's a really good unit. And that, well, outside of pitching, that outfield was so weak by the time we hit the postseason last year. There wasn't that opportunity to see what we saw a lot for this team in September. Those late comebacks, stringing together some hits, giving other guys opportunity, keeping that line moving to where you can get Shohei Ohtani up to the plate, provided there's not a triple play, or maybe he gets walked and Mookie comes up and doesn't pop up and you have a good time. But that outfield, I love that outfield, man.
Yeah, Teoscar Hernandez led the unit, and in the month of September, 179 WRC plus here. We all kind of pegged him. I know when I spoke with you, Alana and yourself on the domestic opening day Dodgers territory, I said that my X factor on offense was going to be Teoscar Hernandez, just because it was a bat that they needed another one of those headhunter guys in the outfield. Max Muncy was one of those, but he's a big walk guy. Teoscar Hernandez, he's one of those free swingers, those Jorge Soler types, where they know they're going to strike out.
Yeah.
But they're such a savvy hitter. When they get one, they're going to connect. He finishes the month out, 86 plate appearance sample, has over a 1 dot. Like, we're talking about a guy who we understand is going to play a quality outfield. It's not going to be exceptional. He's going to play a quality outfield. And whatever your version you're going to get of Andy Pages, we know he's going to slug at least against righties. But against lefties, he's doing both. We're talking bat to ball. We're talking slug. Mookie Betts in right field, continuing to, not match expectations here. But when the moment's called, he's answered. Mm-hmm. Walk-off homer, big 2 RBI knock against the Padres, a day after, the 4 pop-up night.
Yeah.
And I'm ecstatic that we're at a different point. It's a better roster than it was last year. But I've just got to say, man, I need to see them do it. I need to see them get over this hurdle of this bye week stuff and continue this. But what I was concerned last year was they had a lot of young guys last year, and a lot of veterans who you had to be clicking perfectly.
Yeah. This
time around, you're talking about pros who have been doing it. They're in primes of their careers here. They're not praying for that upside to continue. We're talking about Teoscar Hernandez, Mookie Betts, Andy Pages has found his dip. He's been in the valley, he's been in the gutter, and he's back up to a spot where they feel confident. The organization feels confident. We're not dealing with, James Outman and, him admitting the bright lights got to him, which was a terrible thing.
Yeah.
Now I just have a ton of confidence because Tommy Edman, Chris Taylor, man, and we've got to see what we can get.
And there's
guys
also
are going to have at bats. It's the fact that you said that there were moving parts. There were a lot of moving parts there, and this year there's just not as many moving parts. It's like one guy. It's like one guy they're going to talk about subbing out on a game to game. Everything else, it's set it, forget it, and that's all they've got to worry about. They've got that continuity, and I think that gives you a lot of comfort too. That there's just not as many moving parts. 2, 3 platoons.
A lot of the those worries in a platoon were kind of remedied in this second half, both with that addition of Tommy Edman, who just freed up a lot of took away some decisions for Dave, we'll say, and took away some decisions, tough decisions.
Did you have that holy shit moment too, where you were like, I think they got it now. I think they figured this stuff out.
Yeah, because he's somebody you feel confident in center. You feel confident at shortstop, and it doesn't take away or doesn't force Chris Taylor to be in there on the daily, which we've seen he's been very good in the second half because they've limited his exposure. They're putting him in the best spots, and you hope they continue to do that. But Kike Hernandez, the resurgence there of Kike, I think that really is the game changer all around. When you're talking infield, talking outfield, you're talking bench, having him available to this team. If there's one guy I still would have loved to have seen in some role, it probably would have been Jason Hayward, just because I liked him, off the bench. But
sure,
that's dead and gone. It's a different era, different time of Dodger baseball.
Feels like a long time ago.
Feels like a very long time ago. A question I had for you here. If we're talking Mookie, talking Freddie, those are the guys that really had to wear the brunt of last postseason's failures. I know people aren't happy with Mookie once again. He's doing his podcast. He's going on Jimmy Kimmel. News break here. He's allowed to have a life, and he's a pretty well-known celebrity. But I think, and I also think it fueled a lot of his early success in the season. I think he's still pissed, and he needs to still be pissed about last October and those failures, and thinking about it and trying to sleep. He told us, what is it, when he finally broke his silence late in October or in November, like how tough it was to get over that. Does that fuel him more than we've seen out of Mookie Betts this October? Those past failures.
I asked my chat that same question about a month ago. I want to see how many people believe that Mookie Betts, this is the year that Mookie Betts is going to flip the script for himself. And it was a overwhelming majority of people who said yes. Overwhelming, because of how much, I'm not going to say hatred. It's not that. People don't have hatred. People have overreaction stuff.
We have expectations.
They have to the point where if they're anything but a cyborg, it's the wrong thing, and people they forget that they're human beings. And Mookie Betts has been open about wanting to have longevity outside of baseball, a spot in and both entertainment and being around the game, covering the game the way that he understands and the way we do. And we've had a lot of conversations that it's an underserved market, that connecting players with fans in the game is really a hard thing to do, because there's just something about it, man. There's something about how the NFL markets it, soccer, stuff like that. The humanization of a lot of these players is something that it needs to happen a lot more, because these guys, Mookie Betts spoke about it. He read all the comments after, about that podcast. He was perplexed by it. He said, I don't know why so many people are angry about it. He goes, this is something that was planned, that he's been working on for a long time. As far as his on-field stuff, brother, baseball is baseball. Things happen or things don't. But as far as his focus and his mentality going in, I really believe that Mookie Betts, it's not playing in Shohei Ohtani's shadow. And Mookie Betts understands that playing alongside Shohei Ohtani doesn't take the burden off of him. It's the matter of it puts him in another situation where he can add, be another piece to the puzzle, be another superstar next to an all-timer. And I think that he understands that his opportunities are going to come in spots where, yes, the moment is going to be on him, but somebody else is going to be there to set that table up. He's just got to knock it down. That's not a bowling reference, no pun intended, but we're talking that Ohtani's going to set some stuff up here. It's that Mookie Betts is going to be that next guy to do it. And I really believe it. I truly do, that there's going to be a moment where people are going to say, you feel it with Mookie Betts. You can feel sometimes, I know it might be, a downer. You can feel when the moment feels good and when the moment doesn't.
Yeah.
And I don't know why with Mookie Betts, a lot of the time, whether it's matchup based or just vibes based, but when those pop-ups happen, that problem came in fours. But I think that, again, with Ron Washington opened that door with that intentional walk of Shohei, and it just felt different, brother. It felt different that Mookie Betts understood it. I feel like Mookie Betts, to have a chip on his shoulder for all the times he's played in October, for the time he's been at the superstar status with the Los Angeles Dodgers here, I think Mookie Betts knows that this is a postseason that there's another person on the team that's playing with as much fire as anybody he's ever played with. Yeah. And I think he's going to play right up to that level. I really truthfully do. So I'm going to join my chat and say that I'm going to go with that. This is the year that Mookie Betts, rises to the occasion.
I agree with probably most of what you said there. I will say that I think Shohei does. You said it didn't. He doesn't take that pressure off of Mookie, or maybe Mookie doesn't feel that pressure being removed. But I think it does. I think it fully does. You kind of said it just in a different way. Although you said those. Yeah, you said it the whole pressure thing, or however exactly you said it. Having that guy, having that grown up in front of you, that every single eyeball in the world is going to be on Shohei Ohtani in that first at bat that he takes. And it's not Mookie this time. It's not Mookie having to worry about it. And hopefully, you cross every finger and appendage you have. You hope that Flaherty can put up a 0 in that first inning, so there's not that immediate need to try to come back from 6 runs or whatever, or even 1 run. But having that guy, I think that's just got to be a calming figure. And at the same time, we somehow, as we're about to get into DH grade, which is just Shohei grade, and spoiler alert, I got an A++ for Shohei Ohtani in the month of September. Yes, we saw a different version of Shohei Ohtani in September. You saw a different animal. He went Super Saiyan on us in September. This is a boy that is hungry. He is violently attacking these baseballs, and I think we started seeing the rest of the team feeding off of that. You saw William Dills Smith emote on a baseball field. We haven't seen that in quite some time. There's something there, and there's something to Shohei that's gonna, I'll knock on desk here, that's gonna fix everything for these boys that have been plaguing them the last couple of years.
Do you want to know what with runners in scoring position? So remember at the beginning of the year, everybody was getting on Shohei Ohtani for runners in scoring position. And what's the saying? It's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Yes, sir.
In the month of September, Shohei Ohtani had a 419 WRC plus with runners in scoring position. 30 plate appearances, but over a 1,300 slug, right? I know a lot was skewed from the game in Miami, but it isn't only that game. It's not only that game. We're talking about 5 homers, 25 RBI, just a true force right at the top of the lineup. So that's just runners in scoring position. That's him finding a rhythm, finding his heartbeat, locking it in, batting 400 nearly for the month of September, 234 WRC plus, one of the best things I've ever seen. So it's not only you're the best player on the planet. He's a Los Angeles Dodger batting at the top of the lineup, tone setter, table setter, all in one. He's your RBI guy. He's your home run guy. He's your make a mistake, it's flying over the wall guy. He's your get on first, I need someone on second base at a high clip. That's the guy. So if you pitch to him, you pitch around him, then you get Mookie Betts, who has had multiple scenarios with that. And that's not it's something I thought would happen a lot more about pitching around or, just putting Shohei Ohtani on base. But he can't do that because then he's going to be on second base at a high clip. So with that happening, now Mookie Betts is going to have a lot more opportunities to go bat the ball here. And I liken a lot of that to his at-bat against Tanner Scott, where Tanner Scott's going, Mookie Betts is coming up, and I want him to be aggressive, not get behind in the count where it's a swing and miss situation. And he's going to get a slider outside or a, off-speed pitch outside, take it the other way. And that's an RBI right there. And I think we're going to see those moments a lot. I think the Padres will learn from them though, but it's a scenario that's going to happen quite a damn lot. So I'm looking for Mookie Betts to have that table set and knock it in. Yeah. It's just staying with Ohtani, A++, S tier grade. How else can we say it, man? I told Blake Williams on our show that how often is it that you get a player that you sign for $700 million or any big contract and he exceeds your expectations? How often does that happen with any free agent, man?
It absolutely does not. And if you want to call him a unicorn, I just call him Shohei. I call him World Series champion, hopefully about a month from now. But again, game changer, that dude. And also, you're talking about Mookie. I looked it up while you're talking there. Mookie, he hasn't been a slouch himself with runners in scoring position. 351 finishes the season. 351, 1.020 OPS with runners in scoring position. Not a lot of pop. Only 5 homers, 9 doubles, but it doesn't matter. You're still getting the job done and keeping that line moving. That's Absolutely. What I want to see out of that dude. We'll bypass the bench because we already talked about the bench. We feel good about the bench because the bench is all of us. The bench is the friends we made along the way with this team. So it would be dumb if we don't also try to be poke some holes in this, try to be less positive and look at some biggest concerns. I gave it away there, pitching concerns. The biggest concerns heading into the postseason. And of course it's going to be pitching for this team. I think the bats have enough. I think there's enough length to this lineup where they can figure out how to score at different points in the game. They showed that to us all season long, and they definitely showed it to us here in the month of September, or last month in the month of September. But that pitching, I said it during your pitching grade. I need to see a little bit more out of Jack Flaherty. If you want to be this ace, if you want to come in here and live up to all of the hype we were giving him. I was giving him a lot of hype, but I kind of maybe some of that might not have been earned. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it, but I need to see more out of this dude. I need to see some ace level stuff out of Jack Flaherty. If you're going to potentially start 2 games for this team in an NLDS, if it goes, 5 games, if you have that, like, you need to be somebody that this team pencils in 5 innings, 6 innings, 2 runs, 5 innings and a run, keep that game there, and save that bullpen for when they need it later on. So there's that. And my other concern, the Padres is looking good. The Padres, they look good. They got the vibes. They can get it going pretty quickly. But that's it. That's it for my biggest concern. It's all about just the very top of that rotation. I think we're going to see enough out of Walker Buehler. He doesn't need to be the man, but he knows he can be. I think he's finding something there. And Yamamoto, he needs to be closer to versus Yankees Yama than he was when he was ill a couple weeks ago against them Rockies. But your chief biggest concern, what is it for you?
I probably stick with you on starting pitching. I would be going completely against everything I've said. I believe the offense has enough. But I think that to the psyche for a team, when you get punched in the mouth right away, when going in, these players know. These players know that the pitching has to be good. They understand that. I know that they did last year. And I'm not letting them off the hook anytime that if, say, you get knocked in the mouth for 5 in the first, and then the offense doesn't come out and answer back with a couple. I'm not going to knock them on. They don't drop the equalizer because teams can pitch a certain way. They can completely change the game plan here. They can just attack, and then you just have to be on your toes. So I think it's important that Jack Flaherty goes out, and just like you said, he needs to have an easy 1, 2, 3. I need to see him throw up a 0 in the first and let your guys get in there with a chance to have the first punch. I think it's that term heavyweight fight gets thrown around a lot. It's going to be a heavyweight fight. This is a matchup you're not going to find because the Padres are the most complete team in the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
On both sides, National League, American League, it's not even close. I'll put my stamp with them. It just is. All phases. They've got the offense. They've got the matchup guys. They've got the bullpen. They've got horses at the front. It's a matter of, can you be the first team to have that punch? But if you look at what Jack Flaherty has done against a couple different teams here, the Padres, he went 5 innings, allowed 3 earned. Against Atlanta, he went 3 innings, 4 earned. But again, it's that point where nobody looked good in Atlanta, whether it was humidity, whatever it was. Yeah. But against Arizona on September 2nd, he went out and threw 5 2/3 in Arizona, having 7 punch outs, allowed 1 earned run. So it's a matter of, are you going to get that guy? Are you going to get Baltimore Orioles on the start right before that, August 27th? He goes 6, allows 3, throws 100 pitches. You're going to get 100 pitches from him if they keep him in. Otherwise, it's a different story. But if you get, Clint, let me ask you, if you get 5 innings, 3 earned runs, are you okay with that?
In this modern era, it feels like in this era of baseball, you have to be okay with it. I'm not giving him a standing ovation as he's walking off the mound at Dodger Stadium, which he will get because they just give them out like they're, I don't know, like they're free something or other. Yeah. But we know, the good thing is we know that's enough to keep this team in the game. So I'm not going to be sipping on that haterade, knowing that he did as much of his job as he could because, to borrow from Mookie Betts, they all drive nice cars too. These guys are out here trying to beat your ass down as well. So understandably, you don't get to just waltz in here and go, 11-0 and bring home the commissioner's trophy. But
because that's the line. Yeah, that's the line that Jack Flaherty had against the Padres, when he just saw them. That's the exact line.
And they won.
He went 5. He allowed 3. After that, he comes out of the game. The bullpen goes spotless straight through. Dodgers win that game 4-3. It's a heavyweight fight. It's a heavyweight fight. The Dodgers only allowed 4 hits that game. And you know who allowed every one? Jack Flaherty. The bullpen was clean slate through, except Alex Vesia walked 2 guys. And then Kopech walked another. The bullpen has, I think, that success, you have to keep it in the game. You cannot allow it to get away early because then everything switches. Everything changes. You've got to be able to go blow for blow.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to answer back in a multitude of ways. I'm not saying you've got to play small ball. I'm not saying sign up for the bunt. But if the opportunity to scratch an extra run is there, you damn well do it, because you need to keep yourself in a game where a bloop and a blast changes the game or puts you right where you need to be, because the Padres have enough to that whole saying where it's like, oh yeah, give him 5 or give him 6 and then that's the game's over. That's the different thing, because the Dodgers have hitters to be able to go through it and work you down. But I need to see them get the first punch. I need to see them write their own script here where they don't have to battle back every time. I will need a 0. I think you said it, and I like it. I need a 0 in the first from Flaherty. I need to see the Dodgers not allow, if they get Michael King on the ropes, or if they even show like he's got to work at all, you get that punch. You get that punch in, because that's what happened. Exact thing, Michael King. He looked filthy, but when that opportunity is there, do not damn well miss it. Do not miss it.
The good thing is, the Dodgers, when they come up to bat, they start the game with the runner in scoring position, because Shohei just is that special at the top of the lineup. But, outside of pitching, this isn't 2015 Clayton Kershaw and Zach Greinke we have at the top of the lineup, guys. This is top of the rotation. This is
everybody.
this is what they have left. Yeah, you would love to have Tyler Glasnow in there, even though his postseason history is kind of checkered. Definitely was pitching through injury a lot of his career, but there's a lot of things to feel good on. If we're putting a cap on this edition of the show here, there's a lot of things to feel very good about with this team. Up and down the lineup, up and down the roster, even beyond the 26-man roster. You feel good about it, and you got some X factors. I had it. I got to make sure. I got to double check. I have Will Smith. This is how far this team has come, by the way. Will Smith is my X factor, because he's down in the lineup. There's not a lot expected out of him anymore. Other teams are going to be maybe looking past Will Smith. That kid's got to do some damage, unexpected damage against some teams. You got an X factor in this postseason?
Should I just stick with Teoscar, man, just because I did it early on? Should I just stick with it? You think?
If you feel it in your heart of hearts, I gotta see Teo. You ride and die with Teoscar, my man.
I'm riding it out. I'm going with it. I'm going with it. Like, it's either him, or I feel very strongly, and I'm not gonna. This is excluding Ohtani. We're not gonna go there because we know how good he can be. This is a hidden gem outside of him. Teoscar Hernandez. Or it's going to be, man, I just want to say it. I think Andy Paz has a swing somewhere.
Maybe
Andy Paz has
maybe
a
that's
swing
your
somewhere.
dark horse right there. You got a dark horse, Andy Paz.
That's a dark horse. Yeah. That's a dark horse.
I love to see that. This team also needs a breakout candidate. You know what I got as a breakout? I'm going Lando. Give me Landon Knack doing something special for this team. The unexpected. Maybe a Michael King performance. Probably not that far, but still. Give us something special. Landon Knack. You got a breakout guy, and then we'll get out of here?
If Edgardo Enriquez makes the thing, I don't know how many significant innings they'll give him. Geez, man, breakout. I don't have a breakout. Yeah. And I want to see Yamamoto have those strikeout numbers. I want to see him live up to that same hype that we've seen. Breakout in terms of this is his first postseason MLB experience, and I want to see him rise to that. I want to see him step on the mound, feel comfortable, take a deep breath, look around Dodger Stadium, and go out and throw some quality innings here and not allow it to get away from him. Okay, that's where I'm at.
Yama needs to live up to that contract. I'm going to say it for you a different way. He needs to live up to that contract just so I can tell my Dodgers territory co-host, Alana Rizzo, I told you, believe in Yama. That's what I want to see there. But that guy right there is the legendary gritty Scott Geirman. Find him, of course, on Dodger Blue all year long. Find him writing over there as well, and he's always here on the internet to listen to your guys' gripes and give you some real thought and introspective, everything good. This is a guy you gotta watch, you want to listen to here on the internet. Make sure you follow him. You guys see the handle there on the screen as well. Follow him on the Twitter, X, whatever you call it. But appreciate you, buddy, as always.
You got it, man.
All right, and we're back here at the end of that. I want to thank again my friend Scott Geirman for joining the show. Make sure you go follow him on the Twitter. Make sure you follow him on Instagram if he likes that. I don't know if he wants people following him on Instagram, but make sure you watch his content, interact on his content over on the Dodger Blue YouTube channel, friends here on the channel. But I want to know your guys' thoughts about this team. If you're firing off grades in the comments, I'm very interested in seeing how you feel about this team, whether it be a September grade for the rotation rotation, the bullpen, the infield, the outfield, Shohei Ohtani, or whether it be the full season. Fire off those grades in the comments. Takeaways from the season, your biggest concerns heading into the postseason. Are you more worried about the Padres or the Phillies, who we don't even talk about if we're getting ahead of ourselves? Maybe the Yankees, maybe Cleveland. Are you more worried about those teams than we are? I'm interested in knowing how you guys feel about this Dodgers team right now, a couple days before the NLDS does kick off. But anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing if you did. I appreciate you guys. If you're looking for a different way to support the channel outside of just subscribing, I do have Patreon set up, patreon.com/realfrg. There's also YouTube members. The button is somewhere by my head here if you're watching on YouTube. But for $5 a month, you help support the channel, help support independent Dodgers coverage here on the internet. And you also, with that, get access to our Discord server where a whole bunch of diehard Dodgers fans like yourself are talking during the games. We're coming up with ideas. We're complaining. Sometimes we're crying together about this team. I think it makes it's made the whole Dodger experience this year. Doing it this way for me, completely different, yet somehow similar to what I've done in the past. Anyways, it's made it a lot more fun having that community of people, community of great Dodgers fans, a lot of names you know here on YouTube, all of us hanging out on Discord, and you can join as well if you jump on Patreon or YouTube members here. Again, $5 a month. It's less than the price of a Dodger dog, and it goes a long way in helping out the channel. And maybe you make a friend or two along the way. All Dodgers is presented by Bet Online. Appreciate Bet Online. Appreciate our network, Beleive. I am Real FRG on the Twitter, on the Instagram. Follow me there. Hopefully, again, we earned a thumbs up on the way out, and I'll see you on the next one. Okay, bye.